Happy birthday, sir. Happy birthday, Rajput sir.
Happy birthday, Rajput
Happy
ji.
birthday to you, sir.
Thank
Welcome
you
to the
so much.
show, sir.
Yes.
Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you.
Gupta sir, please start the webinar.
Okay, good evening, friends. I am your host, KK Gupta. I'm a director in research in India. On behalf of Association of Financial Advisors of India, I welcome all my friends on this great occasion where we are going to discuss about the cash. Cash is the most important aspect. What is cash? Without cash, nothing can be happened. So today webinar, we are going to discuss the cash management, how you can manage the cash, and what are the difficulty we envisage in the COVID period. Cash flow crisis management in SME sector is the most important aspect in the banking industry also, because you know the COVID period, even Government of India and the Reserve Bank of India come out a very important aspects and provided 20% of the total outstanding as on 28th February 20. Besides that, even you can restructure your account. Although restructure account by 31st December has already been expired, it is still, we feel that cash management play a very important role in SME sector. So today we are having a very eminent personality with us. So we are with us, Sri Amit Mathur, who is co-founder and CEO, and Mr. Munish Gadia, he is a partner of GMP Associates, Sri D.S. Rajput, chairman. So we are having a important person with us, Sri Tilak Raj Chabla, who is ex-MD after ED of this in Allahabad Bank. Today webinar, we are discussing among of the eminent persons. We want to discuss the practical aspect of the cash flow, because cash flow in any industry is play very important role. Because when I also in a bank, so I also find that some party is having a stock, some party has a debtor, their current assets are there. What they are asking us, 5 lakhs or 10 lakh rupees limit as a cash. So when we ask them, because you are having a stock, you can sell it and get the cash realized. That was a problem because that stocks was not there in that. In my telling you very practical aspects, for which our Chabla sir will touch the important point for that. So, according to the report of Global Alliance for the Mass Enterprise, titled MSME Transformations of Task Force, about 70% of the India SME sector have cut back on their workforce to survive the unprecedented crisis. The report, in fact, claimed that 20 to 40% of the SME sector would permanently shut shop. I think this is a very important finding of this entrepreneurs. For this reason, policymakers as well as Indian government have been working toward the revival of the small businesses, which is imperative to outfit the large Indian economy. Because without a SME sector, you know that either you talk about the GDP, you talk about the employment, you talk about the export. MSC sector are playing very important role in the sector. In other hand, SME have been realized that they need to be aimed with a crisis management strategy to face the untable challenge in long term, to not just survive replication of the pandemic but other business shocks as well. Therefore, these are the main mission of this webinar. The mission of the conference is to highlight the method and must be considered by SME sector to overcome the crisis of the cash flow with the help of financial advisors. Also, suggestion how these regulations can be implemented for growth. The conference will also discuss the key areas, effective solutions, approach, showcase the point to be incorporated by the financial industry as a whole. The session will be platform for the industry, expert, financial institution, consultant, and experienced professionals to share their experience and deal in this regard. We are going to discuss the major aspect of the cash flow. Cash, you can say crisis in the cash flow, for which we have eminent speaker with us. So I'm just not taking much time. We will come back to you when as your desire. So I am just inviting Shri Tilakraj Chabla, ex-executive director, Allahabad Bank. Mr. Chabla is having more than 37-year experience in the banking, right from the scale 1 officer to scale 7 in Punjab National Bank, 19 years, and Dena Bank, 16 years, 35-year experience in the banking sector. He worked as executive director for 25 months in Allahabad Bank. During his tenure at Dena Bank, he has worked as regional head in Bombay, Suburban, Bombay City, Chennai region. He also headed the Gujarat operation in Dena Bank for a year as general manager in charge. As general manager at head office of Dena Bank, he showed the responsibility in the most all the sphere of the banking. To name a few, treasury, forex, priority sector, SME sector is the most important aspect where he is headed as a general manager of the bank. Mr. Chabla has attended various banking seminars, training program at national level, institute as well as institute abroad. You talk about the Singapore, you talk about the London, Germany, France, Switzerland, etc. Mr. Chavla is having a board level experience of 12 years in Dena Bank and Allahabad Bank. He also win the board of the regional rural banks, All Bank Finance Limited and Universalis Empo Insurance Company Limited. Currently, he is advising corporate clients on restructuring, on structuring their financial requirement, restructuring their existing financial ability, trade finance, and related matter. We salute Chavla sir for such a broad experience with you. We are really obliged as a research in India or a association of the chambers. So we are thankful to you, sir, for giving us your blessing. So Chavla, just I want to know from your personal experience, you have worked about 35 years in the banking sector. So how do you feel significance of the cash flow projections, especially in introducing the business risk? Because business is having a risk, in all business having a risk. So ultimately what we are doing for the cash. If cash generation is not there, so business cannot be survive. So what is your practical experience, sir? We were going to discuss in seminar, not a theoretical part. We are talking about a practical aspect of your banking, about 35 years in the banking sector. What are your feelings, sir, regarding the this mismatch of the cash, crisis of the cash? I hand over to Mr. Chavla. Chavla, sir. अनम्यूट कर लीजिए सर, अनम्यूट कर लीजिए, अनम्यूट चावला जी अनम्यूट करिए, अनम्यूट चावला सर आपका अनम्यूट कर लीजिए. हाँ, yes sir, yes. Now sir you start.
Yeah, at the outset, let me thank you, Gupta ji, for a very elaborate introduction and also for inviting me to this webinar for sharing the experience, especially on the cash flow front. Now, coming to the small enterprises and medium enterprises, basically, cash flow importance you have already elaborated. It is very, very important. It is it is very essential for any organization, not to talk only SME, because unless the cash in hand, it can't run its day-to-day operations. Cash has to be there and it has to be adequate. Surplus also is a problem. Deficit is still a very serious problem. Now, my experience with the clients during my banking career is that, number one, some of them, out of enthusiasm of expanding fast, earning more revenues, they divert their working capital into the fixed assets. That is the commonly observed mismatch carried out by our entrepreneurs, more particularly the medium sector, small sector, without much of a long-term view how this money is going to be recouped for repayment and for running, the working capital cycle of the business. So this type of diversion immediately creates problem with their day-to-day working. Working capital is short. They find difficult to run their factories. And after investing or diverting that money, they run around to find the additional working capital. And still, some of the entrepreneurs do not consider asking a bank to refinance the investments made by them in the fixed assets. That's another mistake they commit. Now, if such entrepreneur slightly plan ahead for the expansion, if it is required in the business, then maybe some financial tie-up can happen for a long-term investment into the fixed assets. But as I said, these entrepreneurs, they are comparatively not that experienced in the business, maybe 4 or 5 years experience they have, or maybe they might not have seen the up and down in the business. So that's why they go into this particular direction of investing in the fixed asset without planning for the long-term resources. Secondly, some of the entrepreneurs also have indulged into creating the expansion, creating the capacities much beyond the initially projected levels. Now, let's say if existing facility they have of, let's say, 100,000 tons, they want to expand to 15,000 tons. Fine, it is planned for 15,000 tons, everything is worked out, tie up of the long-term funds is done. But when they start doing it, they think and they imagine that instead of 15, let's go for 20. What is the harm in creating the more capacities? Because ultimately demand is there and they'll be able to sell their products. Now, in this sudden escalation in the estimates for installed capacity, they divert their own money as well as working capital finance to this projected level of production capacity. Now, as a result, what happens? They have tied up the finances for maybe 15,000 metric tons for the expansion. And when they plan for 20, when they expand it to 20, the long-term resources go, in short supply. And after exhausting that, thereafter only they reach the bankers saying that, okay, sir, our capacity has been expanded beyond the initial projected level. Now we are running short of the cash funds, so kindly help us. So sometimes banks try to help that too, provided the business as such is viable. But when the viability is in question, then they ask such entrepreneurs to bring in another bank who can consider financing the additional capacity. That creates a problem with these guys because the new bank again will go through the entire process of assessing the requirement and then going the other verifications of viability of the project. That can take time, and this time becomes very crucial, and sometimes they start defaulting in payment of interest, payment of installments of the existing term loans, and also they face problem of day-to-day working capital. Now, there are other categories of entrepreneurs which may be due to business cycles, they run into shortage of funds because maybe sales are sluggish, or maybe the sale prices, the price at which they were selling earlier, that has come down because of the market situations, and they are hesitant to sell the inventory which they are holding substantially in a substantial quantity at a discount. So that feeling of selling at a loss or selling at a lesser margin, emotionally they are unable to reconcile that, and they continue to hold the inventory and run into cash flow mismanagement, which results into delayed repayment to the vendors, delayed repayment to the suppliers, delayed repayment of the EMI, and non-servicing of interest in the working capital liabilities and other term liabilities. Now, if these type of mistakes or miscalculations can be avoided by entrepreneurs, the cash management or the cash flow management can be done well, because any business runs with the cash. And unless you hold a cash, you cannot run your day-to-day operation. That is a universal truth. Everybody knows, entrepreneur knows. But how to project it, how to have a realistic estimates of the cash flow, that is very, very vital. Now, presently, there are tools available in the software which can help the entrepreneur to project the cash properly from day-to-day operations, how much inflow is likely to happen and how much outflow is likely to happen. Not for a very long period, but at least for 1 year they should project. And this 1 year projection which they work out should be updated, if not earlier than earlier, at least fortnightly or a monthly they must be updated, because we are in a dynamic situation. The market is dynamic. the demand for a product or the capacity of the buyers to repay their debts to the supplier in time is also sometimes impacted. So that projections need to be reviewed. Wherever there is a delay in realization of book debts or receivables, they should be, followed up, or maybe some other modes of tying up that tightness should be worked out by the entrepreneur. Only then the cash flow can be managed properly. Now, I feel that a good number of entrepreneurs do not have a very clear laid down policy for the collection of receivables. They extend sometimes the receivables are extended without proper scrutiny in the over enthusiasm of jacking the top lines. They concentrate that our sales should grow, we should show 25, 30, 40% growth annually without looking into credentials of the proposed buyer, especially the new one, unless they are they closely examine or scrutinize their capacities or their business or their repaying ability. The lending should not happen. The credit should not be extended to such borrowers. And if one or two instances have happened, then they should look for recovery of those receivables which are stuck, because ultimately their cash flow gets supplemented by receipt of receivables. Not only receipt, but it should be timely receipt. Any delayed will be costing them by way of interest, and any further delays can be costing the business opportunities. Now, maybe in the credit policy, which credit extension policy, which such businesses may have, should have a provision for giving some discount for early payments, because as such, working capital is tied up in the receivables, and if it is not received within, say, mandated period or required period of 15 days or a month, beyond that interest should be charged. Or maybe they can also stipulate that whosoever pays early, they will be given some discount to the extent of interest saved on the working capital. I think that is the normal yardstick kept by the businesses for giving the discounts, because if you receive money early, to that extent you save the interest on the working capital. So those can be incentives for early payments, and any delinquencies need to be followed up very closely. And unless they are followed up, maybe the very purpose of managing the business efficiently by getting the cash well in time may not serve. Also, I've seen certain instances when the entrepreneur invest the surplus money, I should say, the surplus from the business or their profit margin in the fixed assets, like buying a land, buying a property, buying a one particular fixed assets, and keeping it idle for some time, assuming that this will be required for expansion, this may be required for some other exigencies. So such assets are kept. Now, what happens in few cases, I have seen personally, some of the entrepreneurs, they had a very good turnover, they had a very good business, profitability was good, but when the bad time comes, then these things dwindle down and their cash flow suffers and business levels come down. And sometimes, rather very many times, these assets created by them are mortgaged to the bank as a collateral for the working capital facilities or the term lending facilities. Now, when the business cycle is sluggish, then these entrepreneurs are slightly emotionally attached to those assets and they would not like to part with it. They'll say, okay, we'll manage, we'll request the bank to give more money. That means more interest on such borrowings. Instead of that, I had suggested a few of them, dispose of assets, create cash, reduce your working capital liability so that your interest burden also comes down, and the collateral security which you are holding beyond the prescribed level, that will release to you. So you will get your property, you will get your money, your business will be going, and your liability on the interest will also come down. A few of them agreed to that proposition, and we were able to save them in running their business by releasing the collateral which were kept for the additional facilities, to that after realization that outstanding had come down and they were able to save money and they got some surplus as well to run their business. So cash flow is very, very critical for any business, more particularly the SMEs, because the capacity to absorb shocks, capacity to absorb additional demands of the business, they are limited, and unless it is done in a very meticulous way, maybe the purpose of business may not be served properly. That's what I would like to share.
Very nicely, sir. Chavda sir, you have covered very nicely. Major issue what you're talking about, the long-term uses, are met from the short-term
Short-term, yes.
sources.
Resources,
I
yes.
think that is you can say diversion. Otherwise, it's not out of the business. The diversion from the short term to a long term.
Long-term,
It
yes.
is creating a problem, and people are also envisaging that instead of putting 10 ton capacity, they will increase in the capacity, something like that. And
Yeah.
what you also suggested, sir, receivable amount discounting, giving a discount, other thing. I think sir, what I am asking you, you just feel that remodeling strategy for that. If suppose an entrepreneur has gone into a different directions, diverted the funds, and instead, just like you are mentioning, non-core assets, he's purchased it. You also given a suggestion that non-current core assets should be sold by them instead of putting in a collateral security for the banking sector.
Yeah.
So anything other remodeling you feel that is required for any entrepreneur, sir?
Now, number one, the step to create the fixed assets out of working capital is not advisable. If it
Correct.
is done, that should be corrected. Earlier they do, better it is.
Yes, sir.
But non-current asset is not yielding anything to the business as such.
Yes, sir.
It is a dead investment.
Okay.
So earliest they do, the better it is. Otherwise, if it is their own money, no issues. They have the surplus, they can invest anywhere they feel like. That is none of the bankers what you call outlook where they invest their surplus.
Right.
But when it is diverted from the working capital, that pinches the business,
That-
and ultimately the banks also feel the pinch because accounts is not serviced in the desired manner.
So, one question, Chavla, I want to know,
Ji.
because you are a very experienced banker and putting under the SME sector also. So, what do you feel that it is a assets based lending? Now the position is going differently. It should be cash flow lending. So
Yeah.
what is your suggestion for that to the bankers or even the entrepreneur? Whether that lending method, one, two, method three, something like that, that is applicable at this stage. When we're talking about Tandon Chore committee, it might be 75, 76. Now we are talking about 22.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
whether this current asset ratio 1.33, 1.17 should be required for that. What do you feel, sir, in
No,
that?
for small business as such, there was a provision in the earlier mechanism also for cash budget method of lending,
Sir,
but that was limited to a certain extent, maybe 20 lakhs or so. That was the that time for very small businesses.
sir,
But now the mostly banks are, you know, the traditional method of assessing the requirement they remains as such. But
sir.
besides that, they are looking into cash budget method also, cash flow management method also. How much cash deficit could be there in a particular business, and if the projection for from the traditional method is more, but cash flow management method requires lesser amount of money, so they give less only.
Very nicely, sir. You covered it like this.
Excess
Just like
money is
talking
also
about,
a problem for the business.
sir, but what I'm talking about, because when I am in Lucknow, there were so many sugar mills are there. So we are having a C1, C2, that is cash budgeting. Our sugar mill, our proposal are being assessed on the cash budgeting system.
Yes.
So whether this system cannot be applied to big industries also. So what are you feeling? I'm just wanting a special answer from you. That is required these days.
Yeah, we can say that yes, if let's say if it is implemented strictly, number one, the entrepreneur mentality is such that they say our entitlement as per the laid down mechanism is this much, but you are restricting us to the extent of our deficit in the cash flow.
Sir.
And they will say that deficit is a dynamic thing, anytime it can change, maybe 2 years, 3 years, you are assessing a requirement of 1 year. So there is always, invariably there is a resistance of,
They are telling a daily cash flow,
yeah,
daily
yeah,
budgeting, they are
yeah.
telling monthly
So,
budgeting.
yeah,
And I think there was a system under this, we are taking the monthly, you can say, cash flow statement also.
yes. Yeah, that
But I will
is,
come back to you, sir. Now
yeah.
I'm coming to CA, Sri Amit Sahai Mathur. He is co-founder and CEO, 4Axis Business Solution Private Limited. Mr. Mathur is a chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, and so on. By education, he headed finance section of the various global organizations for 17 years and is running and an investor in startup since last 11 years. He also co-founder and secretary general of MSME IPO Chambers, a non-profit industry body by providing ecosystem to MSME for fundraising through SME IPO platform and private placement. I think he has done a very excellent job because I know him personally also for the IPO of the SME sector. So he was the instrumental. I also attended one or two webinar as a co-moderator also with him. Sorry, just I want to know from Mr. Mathur, how do a small business and startup manage growth? Why pen demand most last 2 years in uncertain period? Because last 2 years we feeling the COVID, and how a small entrepreneur can survive without the cash. So have you any thinking on that? How do a small business startup faced manage the things in the last 2 years? So Mathur sir.
Thanks, Mr. Gupta, for the introduction. And it's great hearing Mr. Chawla also from the bank's perspective. I'll just share, because we have running startups and SMEs, and also we invest in them. So we very closely monitor multiple businesses and business models and how they have been, how they've taken the challenge last 2 years, especially when for almost 6 months the businesses were stopped, forcibly stopped. They couldn't do anything, but at the same time the government was pushing all the businesses to keep on, paying the salaries for the employees, as well as paying the various basic stuff. We have to pay our bills, electrical bills or whatever it is. So there was a constant cash outflow happening, and and there was no business, so no inflow happening. So it has sucked out all the money which the companies have either generated through business or raised through capital raises. So maybe through fundraise in a private placement, or a VC through VC or Ps, or the business results what have been created. Most of these got wiped out. So when the so I've seen so many of the businesses wherein somewhere in 2021 October, November, when the lockdown was lifted. So again, we saw the pent-up demand coming up, and so businesses started investing a lot to build the capacities, and they had ran out of cash. That point of time, the government has given some reliefs to the startups and SMEs through restructuring of existing debts, etc. The investors have all ran away by that time, right? So government has given a slight helping hand. But within next 3 months, by the time they build capacities, in next 3 months, again from April 21, the next lockdown was declared. So all the investments which have been done by the companies, got stuck. So all that, additional loans which were taken, you can't service them. And in the second lockdown, even the government has not given any support. There was no support from the banks. Rather, I would say, banks were giving such a deals for restructuring, which was really bleeding out the businesses. So, at times we see that we took some of such restructuring from banks and NBFCs, and effectively they were killer deals. So banks made tons of money on those deals at the cost of killing the businesses. But there was nothing can be done. The poor businesses they were stuck back to the wall. Now again, last few months, since the things opened up, the companies have started. There again, the next round of pent-up demand, and hopefully now we won't see any more lockdowns. So the issue is like the businesses have ran out of their cash or their reserves, and they have a lot of business ahead, which has there's money on the table. So everybody has to pick up that business, deliver on those businesses, and recover the losses of last 2 years. Now the challenge is how to fund the business growth, right? Because banks are not lending at all, because we have restructured the loans. Businesses have restructured, so banks have stopped lending. Banks have stopped giving any, leniences. government did roll out few of these things like some platforms for bill discounting or factoring services. But again, there are a lot of strings attached, and the interest there is again close to 18 to 20%. And so, but fortunately, over last couple of years, the momentum of private investment have shot up. So a lot of businesses who have done well, like pharma, like online, digital, etc., and the large businesses have done well. So this is a saving grace that a lot of business houses have built their family offices through which they're investing in such businesses which are promising, the small businesses which are promising. So that's a silver lining, that is another source of capital which flows into it, and it's not non-interest bearing. Though you have to dilute your stakes, the shareholding get diluted, but that's a way to that's the only way right now available for the businesses to manage the growth. And coincidentally, all these investments comes for a business growth. So if there's a business, they'll fund. They know that the money is going towards growing the business. And see, the people who are investing are also running their own businesses. So they understand the market dynamics. They understand, and to top it all, let me share a few more things. The impact on the businesses due to COVID, the cost have risen drastically. The cost of transport, the cost of raw material, everything has shot up. On the other hand, if the buyers are large companies, they are paying in 60 to 90 days. And the small companies have to pay for their raw material, for their services, at least 20-30% more. So that has shrunk their profit margins. They had to put strain on their working capital. And so already with the reduced profit margins, it became really tough for them to, take care of the new business or pent up business demand, which all of us are seeing.
Mr. Amit, you can remove the Bluetooth, and I think directly mic you can use it, so it is better. So your voice can be laudable.
Okay. Is it better now?
It is better now. It is better now.
Okay. So that's what practical situations I'm sharing, which we have seen in many of our companies and many other companies, which we are part of the ecosystem. So the silver lining is that against all odds of reduced profit margins and need for a growth, because there's a pent up business demand. There is a helping hand coming through the private investment, but obviously at a cost of the stakes or the shareholding in the company. But as of now, that's the only way out, because banks will not lend because of the credit scores have come down due to the cash flow issues. So this is it. We have to basically, it all boils down to the proper planning now. You have to plan. Even though we see tons of business coming in, we are restricting ourselves to jump into delivering the whole lot of business, because end of the day, our working capital gets stuck in the more the business we do, more working capital gets stuck. On the top of it, by 20th, we have to pay service tax, GST. 18% GST, even though realizations happens in 90 days, besides our actual business money gets stuck, you have to pay 18% to the government. Otherwise, we can't file our GSTRs, and our clients will not release POs. So the SME sector, the startups are really in a bad jam situation. Earlier, the GST was slightly more lenient. Now, unless they see the credits in the ledger, you're not getting input credits also. So on the one side, the economy, Corona has sucked out business and the cash. On the other side, the government is also sucking out cash from business and there's nobody to help. So
Very nice point you are touching up. I think this is the first time we are listening about GST, and you are getting out to 90 days, 120 days, and you have to pay GST immediately. This is cash crunch. Sir, you have taken very important issue. Like, now startup is having a growth path. As you are mentioning that with the restructuring, so banker are shy to give a loan. So, sir, how they manage the funds for the growth? Because growth can only be happen if you have a fund with you. So, how the growth can be happened, sir? So, what do you feel that you what mantra you told that the private investor?
yeah, so that is
Private investors are coming and they are charging high huge interest. That means loss to the entrepreneurs. These were small entrepreneurs. This is the
see
first issue.
all the Shark Tanks and all has given a lot of boost to the entrepreneurship, and has also, and the success of a lot of startup IPOs has given a boost confidence to the wealthy people who till now are not investing in the private capacities in these small businesses or startups. So they have opened up. So what is good, I would rather say, is the reliance on the banks have reduced, because they have been following specific rules and regulations, some formulas which are ages old, and they refuse to change, even though the way businesses are done has totally changed. The services are substantial, 40% of the GDP comes from there. But the cash flow financing, what we talk about, for a couple of my companies, I've been to multiple banks. I have a strong and blue chip clients, whom I raise invoices, but still banks shy away from even discounting their invoices. So, I mean, for multiple reasons, though they are on multiple platforms. So the silver lining which I've been saying is that these wealthy people have come, wealthy houses, business houses, they have started loosening their purses to really put money in these promising, small companies or startups. So that is where the money is coming from for the growth currently.
Sir, you are the helm of fair this SME sector regarding the IPO fundraising. You feel any difficulty envisaged by you for raising the IPOs, some funds from the stock market?
So see, as regards the SMEs are concerned, there are two stocks. I mean, one is the SME exchange, wherein all the small companies can come and list, and obviously there are main boards, NSE and BSE for the companies beyond a certain turnover and beyond a certain capital. So the one is like exposure. So the SME exchange, SME BSE, SME NSE exchanges are lesser exposed. People don't have much access to them, to buying and selling. So even though government is putting a lot of effort, that this opens up as one of the sources of raising funds for the small businesses. So we have seen some really great IPOs in SME sector on SME exchanges, which are really great. Some really good businesses have raised multiple, their issue gets subscribed multiple times. So this is picking up. This is undoubtedly picking up as a source of generating capital for the SME sector.
Very nice, sir. You are also investor in a startup in the last 11 years, what you are mentioning. Do you have any experience, sir, with you? We can share with our listeners, sir.
Sure. So, see, we all have been seeing for initially, basically it was more for US phenomena where we used to have the seed capital funding happening, pre-Series A or Series A, Series B kind of funding happening in businesses. And slowly last 12 years, 10 to 12 years, it moved to India. And I would rather say that till 2 to 3 years back, only the large VC funds used to invest, or the proper VC institutional investors used to invest in the these startups or SMEs. But last 2-3 years, we have seen a sea change of people like us, people, the well-set executives of global companies investing their own personal wealth into startups and SME, good business SMEs. Because one, the fixed income interest rates options are very less, and there's only X amount of asset class which you can, you need to balance your asset class. So the biggest thing, see, earlier issue was if you invest in an unlisted company, how you get an exit. So that's the reason. I mean, nobody used to invest in them as an individual or as a small businessman or a small, wealthy guys. Not. I mean, I'm not talking 500 crore or 1,000 crore guys, but maybe even a 50 crore person would not invest in an unlisted company because the exit, he didn't know how he'll get the money back. But last 3-4 years, we have seen a lot of M&As happening, a lot of strategic exits happening for these startups. And the culture which we have seen last 3-4 years is the Indian large business houses have started coming ahead and buying these companies. So we see Mahindras and Reliance and Tatas started buying, Tata buying 1mg, Mahindra has bought a lot of other startups. So Reliance Jio has bought close to 50-60 startups. So that has brought a lot of excitement among, even average or a middle class wealthy guys, that this can see an exit happening. And I would say 1 year back when the Zomato IPO happened, till then no startup had an IPO. And so IPO, so I've been in this for last 11-12 years. We used to sign SHA, SSAs, and IPO used to be one paragraph for exit. But we always took IPO as a theoretical paragraph because we all knew that this is not going to happen for anybody. But nowadays, all the investors press for an IPO because that seems to be most logical instead of being a strategic exit. So all these developments in the market has given a lot of boost and confidence to many people. So people can even invest 5 lakh rupees as a seed capital. So people are investing, individuals investing from 5 lakhs to 5 crore rupees in startups. That is helping generate, unlock a lot of capital which is blocked. So all of us have been saving and putting in FDs and few here and there in mutual funds. So that capital has been unlocked for the SME sector or startup sector, which is flowing in.
Thank you, Amit sir. You have rightly covered everything about startup or things. I will come back to you. I'm coming to Shri D.S. Rajput, Chairman, South Asia Group of Companies. Mr. Rajput, entrepreneur and scholar, petroleum sector. He is president of MSME IPO Chambers, former vice president, International Well Controlled Forum, MENA, region, Middle East, North Africa, Secretary Association of Discovered Small Field Operators, visiting faculty on various petroleum institutes in India and abroad, Chairman South Asia Groups, oil and gas exploration production, largest operational and maintenance company of oil rig and offshore and onshore and offshore. I think he's the entrepreneur. He has some experience to get a loan from the banking sector. COVID period, some new entrepreneurs are also coming. They want some limit from the bank, from the credit facility from the bank. And I feel that Mr. Rajput is the right person to talk what type of difficulty he faced it. Because I understand that he got a crores of rupees order, lekin he has to manage somewhere else. So let us listen from him how he managed his business, how the banker are helpful to him, and what is his suggestion to maintain the cash flow. Mr. Rajput. Unmute कहिए sir, unmute कीजिए Rajput sir.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, dignitary panel and all attendees. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for a brief introduction. Good evening, my close friend Amit Mathur. How are you doing? Very well briefed. Good evening, Sri Tilak Rajji. It's nice to see you here. Such an experienced and veteran person from the banking sector, along with Mr. Gupta. Good evening, Mr. Manish. Well, my name is D.S. Rajput. We are into oil and gas production. In last 2 years, during the COVID, the industry which has gone for toss or almost on the verge to survive were the hotel and tourism industries and the entertainment. Of course, everybody was bad hit, but these were the industry, including restaurant and all. They were very, very, very badly, affected. Other than that, to utmost surprise, our industry was also badly affected. There was a day I remember in the month of February or March, rather you say, oh, not exactly February, March, it was May or June after the first lockdown. The crude went down and it reached to minus. It was a historical moment. It means like if you're producing a crude, earlier there was a queue to buy it. Now you need to discard it, and to discard you have to spend money. The crude barrel went minus in Texas. So our industry was badly hit during that time. Luckily, because internationally all the crude producer oil industries, Baron, they were bankrupted very badly, and the service industry. In India, the people who were working with government operators like ONGC in Oil India and their suppliers, their service company, they were happy because it was our need. So even on the minus rate of the crude, ONGC kept on producing the oil. So their service provider was safe. But other than that, the private sector, which were producing the crude, because of the rate went minus in India, they stopped production, and then there was a COVID effect also because the manpower was not available. People were falling sick again and again, and then the market was closed. So a lot of services, the chemicals you cannot buy to process. So because of those things, the crude industry was also badly affected. So we lost almost all the business in last 2 years, and the turnover which we were enjoying, from that turnover we reached to almost less than 10% of our previous one. So how we come up, what we have done, I would like to share, and it is my own experience, so it won't be 100% theoretical part. So if Mr. Gupta allows, I'll share it with you.
Please carry on, sir. Carry on.
All right.
Carry on, Rajput.
Yeah, thank you so much. As my friend Amit just said right now, I fully agree. But Amit, do you really think that, during this time, when the big business houses are coming to buy your share, you will be able to get the right price? Because when they are there to take the opportunity, they can negotiate like anything. So if your company is worth of 100 crore rupees, they will negotiate at 20 crore. And then, if you are in cash trouble, you need to sell it. So you're selling your stock. So that is also not a good game. But the situation was such that everybody wanted to survive. In fact, me, everyone. After the survival, hum log zinda rahenge to aage chal paenge. That was the main motto. So people went with those people also, but they did not get the right price. Recently, if you see, it was something like, a good negotiation like Shark Tank India is doing nowadays. But that was the worst scenario. Now, post-COVID situation we'll talk about. So people have started bidding, people have started getting the businesses. But the situation is such, as Amit rightly said, that the government earlier, they were giving you time for 120 days, or, it was regular also, it was 60 days. And during COVID, it was 180 days sometimes to pay the GST. Now the government is forcing within 45 days, you need to pay the GST. So where is the cash flow? If you go to bank, I will not say anything offended towards bank because it is their policy. No one wants to seek their money. But honestly speaking, when you go to bank has helped because the government said that 20% plus 10%, 30% EC emergency credit guarantee scheme. They have, already funded those amounts, but that was not sufficient. That was not enough to come out of it. So people have used it. अभी वो पैसा भी जिनको मिला है, the people those who have got that money, वो उनको उस पर मिला है जो उनका existing loan था. The loans which they were having, उस amount का they got the 30% amount. So most of the companies, they use that amount to pay the EMI, the pending EMI, or maybe, you know, that was not sufficient. So what a businessman should do, what we have done, you know, we studied the whole of the scenario, and we had a brainstorming session with our team, and we prepared ourselves for a new challenges. And then we realized that the government has come up with few opportunities, like we are working with ONGC, and there are other friends who might be attending the seminar. They might be working with different companies where they need to put the bank guarantee. So the government issued 12.25% earlier of annual value. The government reduced the bank guarantee by 3%. So to take an advantage, the 3% was a better opportunity. We recalculated everything. We came up with a new cost and we jumped it. But again, the problem was that 3% was also not being funded by the bank. आप बैंक के पास जाइए तो वो आपको कहेंगे कि साहब आपका इमरजेंसी क्रेडिट गारंटी स्कीम का 30% आप ले गए हो, अभी आपको लोन चाहिए तो आप लेटेस्ट जीएसटी का रिटर्न लेकर आइए और 26 एएस लेकर आइए. अब मेरे पास में लास्ट 2 साल से काम ही नहीं है, तो मैं जीएसटी के पेपर कहां से लाऊंगा? नील वाले आएंगे. So the viability was not there on the paper. Yeah. So to cope up with that, we came up with a new solution. And what we have done, we aggressively bid the tender. Somehow we arranged the this bank guarantee part. And for the working capital, again, the same problem. They were not even getting convinced on the projection itself. कि नहीं, ये नहीं हो पाएगा. So we started subcontracting the project. There, you know, any company which is actually facing a cash problem post-COVID era, they need to share their profit if they want to survive with their supplier, with the subcontractor. Then only they can survive. So this is what we have done. We were lucky enough to win 150 CR plus projects with ONGC. But somehow, even that 3%, which was the bank guarantee amount, it was also pretty high. We somehow managed on our own because there was no support from the bank. And I'm not blaming and I'm not here to say anything because they did their part. They already gave 30% of the existing loan. But as the papers were not supporting, so we anyhow somehow arranged this. You know, we sold out our debt investment. We sold out our debt assets, even on the market price or lesser than that. And we arranged that for bank guarantee, and then we subcontracted our project to the contractor. We saved our profits with our supplier to maintain the cash flow, and this is how we are doing right now. And we are during this 7-8 months only, we became the largest operating and maintenance company of India with ONGC because of this strategy. So this is strategy we came up with.
For the collaboration and partnership, I think what you're talking about, you have given a subcontract or something like that to save yourself. So that means profitability of the entrepreneurs are going down for that. So have you any suggestion for that? This is one way you have suggested our listener that you can give such information, you can have a collaboration or you can have a partnership. So why the banks are hesitant? Because you have got an order of the big corporations. So guarantee amount they will have to give. If a restructure, you are not restructure anything. You have given some, you can say COVID credit of 30%. You got it. I think there should not be any problem. Lekin, what are your feelings, sir, for that? Your partnership and collaboration, what do you feel? That is a tenderable or you can workable for that?
Yeah, of course, because now in the present situation, the collaboration and the partnership is actually workable because it's not only you are affected, whole of the world is affected.
Okay.
So there are companies which find it difficult on single-handed to go ahead with. So they can join hands and they can move together. And I will advise in normal case when you have collaboration, it's a win-win situation or in a better situation because you can get the partner who is having a lot of fun and on the other side you are having the business opportunities and you can join hands. This is the one way. It is ideal situation. It always works. But in present situation, if both the companies are badly affected, then also it works because it's a famous saying, you know, एक से दो brain भले. If you have two brains, they are better than one.
Right.
So the collaboration works, and the cost can be brought down because if it is geographical area, you can have a local partner from the same geographical area.
Right.
So you save the cost on infrastructure. So this collaboration is always beneficial. If you see in our industry, you see in any sort of industry, maybe in a supply chain management or any dealership network or whichever way, it always works. It always works. So the collaboration is this scenario. People should come forward and do it faster to get the previous stage where they used to work and then to grow ahead with.
So the supplier credit, once you are at, I think this is a good suggestion what you are talking about. Lekin you can also talk to your buyer. They can also help you. Even some discounting can also be there with the bank. So what are you feeling for that? So supplier credit can also be there, available with you.
Yes, I mean, if you talk about our experience or a few entrepreneurs who are part of our chambers, whom we know, the SME people who are doing well post-COVID time, what they have done, their first focus was the cost. As you rightly said, that is the cash flow management. So
Right.
cash flow means inward is coming there, but outward you need to stop or you need to filter to maintain the cash. So for that purpose, the major cash which was going to their vendor, they talked to each and every vendor and they set a new credit term with them by increasing the margin a slightly higher side to maintain and to get to survive themselves in the market. So those things are there. The subcontractor part I was talking about was more or less same, sharing your profit. Whereas here, your supplier, you can give them a little bit higher share or a little bit higher rate, and then you can get the credit to maintain the cash flow. This is the time where you will reach to your last stage which you used to be, and then there will be a jump in the coming year when you can renegotiate with the terms with those people by giving them cash. But right now, you're facing a cash problem. You can get a new credit term with your vendor and give them a little bit, which is a viable rate you can give them. Viable rate, a little bit higher than the regular one.
Right, sir. I will come back to Mr. Rajput with you. Now I'm coming to Shri Manish Gadia. He is a partner of JMP Associate. Mr. Gadia is practicing chartered accountant since 1999. Since last 22 years, he is mainly engaged in the area of audit, income tax, management consultancy, banking and finance. He has a vast experience and knowledge in the field of internal audit, internal control system, ERP implementation. From last 2 years, he is doing valuation assignment for the different companies and group of passionates. Finance and business valuation area. He has prepared a lot of project reports and handled the loan syndication work from a different bank also. So, sir, you have a great experience under the fields. So, sir, what my question to you is how do you feel ensure the cash flow management and how it help the stabilizing business? How you manage the cash flow, sir? That is how you suggest to your client to manage the cash flow. So I hand over to Mr. Manish. Manish sir, unmute कीजिए sir.
Thank you, Gupta ji. Thank you, Association of Financial Advisors all over India. I thanks all the panelists also. And Gupta ji, जैसे आपने पूछा कि case management, how to manage the cash flow.
Yes.
So I am doing audit since last 22 years for lot of small and medium size enterprises. Normally वहाँ पर भी ये केस मैनेजमेंट का प्रॉब्लम होता है और अभी कोविड का पीरियड में लास्ट जो 2 साल से जितना प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है उतना कभी नहीं हुआ है. सो दिस इज द राइट टाइम टू डू द होमवर्क एंड डू द बेटर प्लानिंग. क्योंकि पहले जब नॉर्मल सिनेरियो था तब नॉर्मल कंपनी में प्रॉफिट पे ध्यान दिया जाता था कि प्रॉफिट क्या आ रहा है.
राइट सर.
और प्रॉफिट को ही ज्यादा स्ट्रेस दिया जाता था कि प्रॉफिट अगर ओके है तो सब चीज ओके है. बट अभी लास्ट 2 साल के अंदर में प्रॉफिट साइड में गया. प्रॉफिट हो सकता है कि कंपनी इज एबल टू सेल बट इट इज नॉट एबल टू मैनेज इट्स कैश फ्लो.
राइट सर.
एंड कैश फ्लो के ऊपर में जैसे 3 पार्ट होते हैं नॉर्मली, कि ऑपरेटिंग कैश फ्लो, इन्वेस्टिंग कैश फ्लो एंड फाइनेंसिंग कैश फ्लो। तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट अपने ऑपरेटिंग कैश फ्लो का बात करते हैं। ऑपरेटिंग कैश फ्लो में जैसे अकाउंट रिसीवेबल, अकाउंट्स पेबल, इन्वेंट्री मैनेजमेंट, एक्सपेंसेस मैनेजमेंट, इन सब पे ध्यान देने का बहुत जरूरत था, जो कि नॉर्मली सारी कंपनियों ने किया भी है। क्योंकि अगर ऑपरेटिंग कैश फ्लो नेगेटिव हो जाएगा तो सब कुछ नेगेटिव हो जाएगा। तो ऑपरेटिंग कैश फ्लो के अंदर में उन्होंने अपने रिसीवेबल्स को ऊपर में ज्यादा ध्यान दिया कि जितना बेटर टर्म्स दे सकते हैं पेमेंट रिलेशन के लिए, डिस्काउंट मैनेजमेंट के लिए। फिर अकाउंट्स पेबल के अंदर में भी ज्यादा बेटर पीरियड टर्म्स डिफाइन किया गया कि भी ज्यादा टाइम मिल जाए उनको पेमेंट के लिए। एक्सपेंसेस का भी काफी कट डाउन किया गया, सैलरीज को काफी रिड्यूस किया गया, मोस्टली सारी कंपनियों में सैलरीज को रिड्यूस किया गया, एक्सपेंसेस को बेटर प्लानिंग किया गया, जिससे मोस्टली कंपनियां, कुछ प्रॉब्लम भी है कुछ कंपनियों में, बट मोस्टली कंपनी इज एबल टू सर्वाइव इन दिस कोविड टाइमिंग। फिर उसके बाद में इन्वेस्टिंग एक्टिविटी से जो कैश फ्लो मैनेजमेंट है, उसके ऊपर में भी जो अभी अगर कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट इन फिक्स्ड एसेट्स है वो डिफर किया गया, या फिर हो सकता है कि कुछ मशीनरी या इक्विपमेंट परचेज करना है, उसकी जगह हायर परचेज में जाया गया, या फिर लीजिंग में चले गए हैं। तो इससे इन्वेस्टिंग एक्टिविटी को बेटर मैनेज किया गया। एंड देन फर्दर कम्स टू इन्वेस्टिंग इन कैश फ्लो थ्रू फाइनेंसिंग एक्टिविटी। तो इस पे भी प्रॉपरली ध्यान देना बहुत जरूरी है कि फाइनेंसिंग एक्टिविटी में देयर आर लॉट ऑफ इक्विपमेंट, मींस दिस टूल्स आर अवेलेबल, लाइक बैंक फाइनेंस तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है ही है, बैंक फाइनेंस को भी काफी यूज किया गया, एंड बैंक रेट्स हैव बीन रिड्यूस्ड आल्सो लॉट ऑफ, एंड न्यू फाइनेंस अपॉर्चुनिटीज अवेलेबल टू द क्लाइंट्स। इसके बाद में जो पर्सनल लेवल पे जितना फंडिंग अवेलेबल हो सकता है वो किया गया है, बॉन्ड से भी पैसा उठाया गया है। सो दीज आर द टूल्स विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू मैनेज द कैश फ्लो। कैश फ्लो के अंदर में बेसिकली अगर ये 3 टूल को मैनेज कर लिए तो वी आर एबल टू सर्वाइव। तो इसको अगर मैनेज करना हमको, तो इसके लिए हमको सबसे पहले अपने जो प्रॉपर कैश फ्लो प्रोजेक्शन करना पड़ेगा। मीन्स फॉर द नेक्स्ट 1 year वी हैव टू मेक ए प्रॉपर कैश फ्लो प्लानिंग, क्योंकि पहले इतना कैश फ्लो पे ध्यान नहीं दिया जाता था। पहले प्रॉफिट इज द किंग बोला जाता था, अब बोला जाता है कैश फ्लो इज द किंग। कैश अगर कोई कंपनी के अंदर में अच्छा है तो इट इज एबल टू सर्वाइव एंड इट इज एबल टू ग्रो आल्सो, क्योंकि उसको ऑप्टिमम लेवल पे रखना। कई बार कंपनी के पास में एक्स्ट्रा सरप्लस कैश रहता था पहले, तो उसको भी वो लोग ठीक है पड़ा है, कोई इशू नहीं है, बट अभी तो सरप्लस कैश तो है ही नहीं है, अभी डिफिसिट में ही चल रहा है कैश फ्लो। तो उसको भी प्रॉपरली मैनेज करने के लिए उनको अपना प्रॉपर कैश बजटिंग बनाना पड़ रहा है कि व्हाट आई एम गोइंग टू डू फॉर ए बेटर कैश रिलेशन। जो वेंडर्स को पेमेंट करना है उसको कितना डिफर किया जा सकता है एक्सपेंसेस को कम करने के लिए, एंड लॉट ऑफ दीज अदर रेवेन्यूज आर ट्राइंग कि इसमें हमको अपना जो अलग अलग रिसोर्सेज से जो इंफॉर्मेशन लेनी है वो इंफॉर्मेशन ले करके और कैश फ्लो प्रॉपर बनाना है। सो दीज आर द थिंग्स टू मैनेज द कैश फ्लो।
Thank you very much, Manish sir. What you लेकिन my point is, तो जो crisis है under the cash management, how it can be solved in advance? एडवांस में कैसे हम इनको सॉल्व कर सकते हैं? जो कैश क्राइसिस आप आने वाला है, जैसे आपने कहा प्रोजेक्शन बढ़ाइए, दूसरा कीजिए, लेकिन क्या ये प्रोजेक्शन बनाने से ही सॉल्व हो जाएगा या समथिंग अनदर एस्पेक्ट शुड बी अडॉप्टेड?
बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन पूछे हैं गुप्ता जी आप। जो एडवांस में अगर हमको देखना है कि वेदर एनी कैश फ्लो प्रॉब्लम इज देयर और नॉट, सो देयर आर सम टूल्स आर देयर और सम रेशियोज आर देयर। सबसे पहले हम लोग जैसे पहले प्रॉफिट देखते थे, अभी हम लोगों को या ईपीएस देखते थे कोई कंपनी में कि अर्निंग पर शेयर क्या है, तो अभी हम लोग को कैश फ्लो पर शेयर देखना चाहिए कि व्हाट इज द ऑपरेटिंग कैश फ्लो पर शेयर अवेलेबल टू द शेयर होल्डर। क्योंकि अगर हमको कैश फ्लो पर शेयर देखना आ गया कि अगर हमारा ऑपरेटिंग बिजनेस से कितना कैश फ्लो जनरेट हो रहा है, तो वी आर एबल टू मॉनिटर द हेल्थ ऑफ द बिजनेस। उसके अलावा जैसे हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि ऑपरेटिंग जो कैश फ्लो है, हाउ मच टाइम इट इज टू आवर करंट मेच्योरिटीज। सपोज करिए हमारी करंट मेच्योरिटीज 1 करोड़ रुपया है इन द नेक्स्ट 1 year, सो वेदर वी आर एबल टू जनरेट 1 crore rupees कैश फ्लो फ्रॉम द ऑपरेटिंग एक्टिविटी इन द नेक्स्ट 1 year। और ऑपरेटिंग कैश फ्लो पे हम लोगों को जो हमारे मेंटेनेंस एक्सपेंसेस है फॉर द फिक्स्ड एसेट्स और वर्किंग कैपिटल वो माइनस करना पड़ेगा। इसके बाद में जो वर्किंग कैपिटल मींस कैश फ्लो फ्रॉम वर्किंग कैपिटल आएगा, देन वी कैन कैलकुलेट कि हाउ मच टाइम आवर ऑपरेटिंग कैश फ्लो इज टू आवर डेट रिपेमेंट, करंट मेच्योरिटी ऑफ डेट रिपेमेंट। इसके अलावा हम लोग को टोटल डेट के साथ भी कंपेयर करना चाहिए कि कितना हमारा जो कैश फ्लो है, हाउ मच टाइम इट इज टू आवर टोटल डेट पेमेंट। इसके अलावा अगर हम लोग करंट एसेट्स नॉर्मली देखते थे, पहले करंट एसेट्स या क्विक रेशियो देखते थे कि एसिड टेस्ट रेशियो अप्लाई करते थे कि इफ इट इज मोर देन 1 देन इट इज ओके। बट अभी हम लोगों को कैश फ्लो के साथ में अगर कंपेयर करेंगे टाइम टू टाइम तो हम लोग देख सकते हैं, और उसको एड्रेस करने के लिए भी हम लोगों को फिर अपना जो प्रॉपर बिजनेस में जो कैश साइकिल है, हमारी बिजनेस साइकिल है, उसको भी प्रॉपरली मॉनिटर करें कि ये जो हमारी इन्वेंट्री साइकिल है whether we are able to manage it properly or not। इसके लिए बहुत सारा एक्सपेंसेस मैनेजमेंट टूल्स है या इन्वेंट्री मैनेजमेंट टूल्स है, इन सबको फोकस करके और प्रॉपर कैश फ्लो प्लानिंग करना चाहिए।
वेरी नाइसली सर मुनीर जी, आपने बहुत अच्छा किया है भी इसको कैसे कैश फ्लो का मैनेज किया जा सकता है, कैसे नहीं किया। नाउ आई एम कमिंग टू मिस्टर राजपूत। राजपूत सर, यू आर देयर? राजपूत जी, हेलो राजपूत सर। Rajput ji, I think I left here one question for Rajput. So Chawla sir, you are there? Chawla ji, Chawla sir।
हाँ जी, हाँ मैं हूँ गुप्ता जी।
सर आप कुछ हमारे जो लिसनर हैं उनको कुछ एडवाइस दे सकते हैं? यू हैव सो मच एक्सपीरियंस इन द बैंकिंग सेक्टर, how to manage the cash flow, the crisis management in the cash flow, how it can be managed, sir? You can guide something, sir, and a last word from your to entrepreneurs, sir.
Actually, cash flow management at the crisis is really a big challenge
Sir.
for any business.
Sir.
Mr. Rajput also indicated earlier,
sir,
that the collaboration and and one speaker also said that diluting the equity by inviting some private investor.
Sir.
Those are the options available, because the problem is that the banks have limitations to the extent of the system available or the policies available. Now, every executive in the bank has certain powers to go beyond that, but those powers again are limited.
Right.
They cannot go to an unlimited extent. Because there is a segregation of the owners and the the entity and the executives. So everybody has to work within the policy, within the GRAME framework, and whatever relaxation or the variations can be done, those are defined. Now, if in a pandemic situation like we faced last year, still that is continuing to some extent. The options available to the entrepreneur or the investors are limited to the extent of maybe collaborating or subcontracting with somebody, or maybe disposing some of the fixed assets which are idle or which are dead investment for the time being, though sometimes they are at a cost. Maybe the premium which was there earlier on those assets, that's no longer available because demand is less, supply is more. Everybody would be wanting to dispose of those assets, but then buyers are limited. So that one need to take a call whether to compromise on the premium part of it or whether to compromise on the business. To my mind, compromising on the business is a costly proposition, because the business is running, then all premium lost can be recouped once the business comes to the normal, strength. And also, as Mr. Rajput said, we can subcontract the portion of the work and we can share the profits, because survival is more important than the running at a loss or getting an account qualified as a NPA or like that. So instead of running those risks, it's better to reduce the profit. And there are very good progressive entrepreneurs who even decide to sell at par, at a break-even level, at a price which is break-even. Because again, running the business is more important than running earning a profit. Cash flow is nothing but managing the inflows into business to meet the obligations.
Very nice. Very nice.
Generate the surplus by even at a par or maybe a little bit loss, it is worth it, because we can always recover from the business. When the good times are there, money can be generated invariably. So the managing the cash flow is very, very critical. Cost, sometime it can cost a bit, but then entrepreneur should not hesitate in, meeting that cost requirement by taking a futuristic view or a long-term view, and business has to run. A running business also can, help the family or the business to continue its activity.
Very nice, sir.
I think Mr.
Raju sir,
Raju,
Raju sir, there is one question for you. I think he has left it, Mr. Upadhyay. So he's appreciating your efforts for a collaboration or something like that, your mindset, other thing, what you have done it. So have any view for the challenges being faced by having this collaboration or a partnership for that? Any challenges? Raju sir, you feel
Yeah,
any challenges for that?
thank
Sir?
you for the question. Yes, the challenges are in term of course, the profit sharing, because you used to enjoy the full profit earlier and now you need to share it. But as Mr. Tilakraj Chawla sir said, this is the right time to be there in the business. That is the first priority.
Correct, sir.
Maintain your book, bringing back the turnover, so that you can again stand in the front of the bank to get the finance.
Sir.
Just understand this: if you lose your, or if you already lost your turnover, and then you go to bank will not appreciate. They will ask you 2-3 years balance sheet. So for the first priority is to maintain the books, and to maintain the book, you have to be there in the business. If you are a part of, say, any tendering business or any such type of thing, they will ask you last 3 years turnover, or then they will ask you last 3 years experience. If you are out of business for 3, 4, 5 years, then you cannot re-enter.
Right, sir.
So the first priority is to be there in the business. So when you want to be there in the business, you need to share your profit as you are collaborating with someone. Now that question, I also read that it was a very interesting question. He was asking that people are from different mindsets, so how can you collaborate? So my answer is, when there is a profit sharing, when there is a profit sharing, the mindset can be professionally taken care. Uh, First priority is to get the business. Once you get the business, then the execution part you need to partnership. It's not necessary that you need to do partnership initially, because if you don't have business, how will you convince the other part to come with you? So once you have the business, you can do the partnership for the execution. And when you're doing partnership for the execution, we are least concerned what kind of person he is. It's a short term, but that is, the partnership can be there for that particular project. When the project ends, the partnership finishes. So you can have everything black and white, and you can cover yourself, and you can cover that guy also. You can keep both of the people safe by keeping everything in black and white.
Very nicely, sir. Any lastly advice to our listeners, sir? Because you are very experienced and everybody appreciating your efforts. So have any view, you can some advice to the listeners, sir? Any advice from your side, sir, Rajput, sir?
Yeah, Gupta sir, see, this is the post-COVID situation, and all the industries, all the industrialists, all the business people who are there, their priorities should be to be there in the business.
That is
That
more
is,
important.
you can either say the survival, and
Yes.
then the latter stage, the higher than the survival part. So forget about the good time you had enjoyed in previous years. This is the time to keep yourself in the trade. So first is to get the business. You can reduce the profit, sink the profit. You can cut down the cost. You can recalculate. As I rightly said, or if you remember in the initial, I mean, when we started the discussion, I said that the government came up with 3% bank guarantee policy, and we restructure, recalculate everything. Even the small part, the interest part of bank guarantee also we calculated, and we rebid, by reducing the cost. And even today also, the work which can be done by one guy, we are not hiring two people for the same. We are telling our people to stress themselves for the company and for their own self also. And you have to convince your team that once the company will survive, they will survive, and the company will survive. This is the time. I'm not a pessimistic guy, but see, this is the right time. This is the right time. If you have guts, if you have capacity, your competitor going to be out of the market. if they are not adopting the right strategy. So this is the right time. If you survive during this time, you will be on the top in your industry for sure.
Very nice, sir. Sir, you have some idea about the insurance companies are coming to give a guarantee or something like that? At a lesser margin, something is there? In that respect, you can say, Rajput?
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Gupta. Yeah. Mr. Gupta, there was a recent speech from Finance Minister
Sir.
during this budget, and there was only a few seconds spent on that line. It's
Sir.
basically the Insurance Regulatory Board, ILDA.
Yes, sir.
They are designing a product. They have told all the insurance company to design a product. It's like the Western country. If you see in America or in European country, the
Sir.
bank guarantee is provided by the insurance company. I mean, that's not exactly the word is not bank guarantee. It's a guarantee for the project. So
Right.
it is being provided by the insurance company, whereas in India it is exclusive the right of banks. So in the coming future, I mean, maybe in a few months, these company will come up with a new product, all the insurance company, where they will be providing the assurance to the project owner that if they will fail, they will pay the money to them, and those things they are going to do maybe in less than 10%. Maybe they are working on it 4 to 10% or 6 to 10%. But it is again, in compared to a businessman like me, it is again a cheaper or a very attractive option, because I need not to block my property. I need not to block my cash flow. See, right now what the problem I'm facing. तिलक राज सर, आपसे एक छोटा सा रिक्वेस्ट है सर.
हाँ, कीजिए ना, रिक्वेस्ट कीजिए, सुन रहे हैं आपकी बात.
सर अनम्यूट करेंगे तो मैं कहूंगा.
अनम्यूट कर लीजिए चावला सर, अनम्यूट कर लीजिए. आप आपसे कुछ बोलना चाह रहे हैं.
हाँ, बोलिए.
बताइए सर.
Sir, I'm saying this on behalf of the entire industry, because the chamber I'm heading consists more than 200 industry MSME companies, and I'm talking about on behalf of my industry, oil and gas industry, and other industry also as well. Sir, अभी जो situation है, हम लोगों को बैंक गारंटी के लिए 100% FD करना पड़ा सर. ये पोस्ट कोविड टाइम में जब कैश की मारामारी थी, उस टाइम पे नया लिमिट नहीं मिला सर, एग्जिस्टिंग लिमिट भी श्रिंक हो गया, और हम लोगों को 100% FD करके बैंक गारंटी निकालना पड़ा. ये बहुत 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 टफ टाइम था हमारे लिए. जस्ट इमेजिन अभी कोई इंश्योरेंस कंपनी आके मुझे कहेगी कि हम आपको 6% पे देंगे, तो सर मेरा 94% फ्री रहेगा, जिसको मैं एज ए वर्किंग कैपिटल इस्तेमाल कर सकता हूँ. तो शायद बैंक मुझे सपोर्ट ना भी करे तो आई विल बी एबल टू सर्वाइव.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's a good option. But let me share with you the banker perspective. Had you planned it a little bit in advance, it was possible to get the guarantee at the normal margin also, maybe 10%, 5%, whatever your sanction. Because the point is, if you reach the bank at the last moment when hardly a few days are left from the date of submission, likely date of submission of the guarantee, by that time the proposal cannot move to the competent authority. And you are in hurry. Bank also want to help you. They say, for the time you give us 100% margin, we give you the guarantee. Subsequently, they can move for reduction in the margin within your sanctioned, limit by enhancing it to the extent, requirement. So that can be the temporary phase when your 100% margin is blocked. But subsequently, they can certainly reach the competent authority to reduce that margin. Maybe that request you can put to them.
Sir, honestly speaking, thank you so much. I'll try to do that, but I have did this in past. After kicking off the project, the cash flow, the revenue generation has been started. It's been more than 6 months. Every month I'm receiving the bills, invoices, and that is coming in the bank. But still, banks are behaving like a bit conservative. It's not your bank. I'll not say my bank's name because I don't want to say it. But
in a open forum like this, better to it is better not to.
Sir, what is your feeling, Rajput sir? We will convey to the bank. I know the bank. Yes. I will convey your feeling to the MD ED also. No problem for that. Like I think what do you have?
Yes, sir. करना ही पड़ेगा.
Yes, sir. We will.
अगर आपका कैश फ्लो स्टार्ट हो गया है तो आप प्रपोजल मूव करा दो ना ब्रांच लेवल से सीनियर ऑफिस तक, जिसकी पावर में है, टू रिड्यूस द मार्जिन एंड ब्रिंग इट.
सर उसमें भी
तो टाइम लगता है.
देखिए सर, आप और मिस्टर गुप्ता, आप लोग टॉप लेवल पे, नेशनल लेवल पे बैंक के अथॉरिटी रहे हैं, है ना. तो अभी नीचे क्या हो रहा है, मैं आपके साथ थोड़ा सा शेयर करता हूँ, प्लीज डोंट माइंड. व्हाट आई रियलाइज आफ्टर मूविंग टू मुंबई, इट्स बीन 2 years I'm staying in Mumbai.
Okay.
मैंने ये रियलाइज किया सर कि जो भी जितने भी अटेंडी सुन रहे हैं इनके लिए क्लियर मैसेज है. द बिजनेसमैन हु आर लिसनिंग टू मी, प्लीज लिसन इट केयरफुली इफ यू वांट टू ग्रो इन योर बिजनेस. ऑल द एंटरप्रेन्योर हु आर देयर अटेंडिंग द मीटिंग.
Mhm.
अभी कैसा है, इफ यू आर अदर देन इन मुंबई और दिल्ली, आपको फंडिंग में हमेशा प्रॉब्लम आएगा. मुंबई और दिल्ली एक अलग लेयर्स में, अलग लेवल में बैंक की लिस्ट में आते हैं, जिसका टेक्निकल टर्मिनोलॉजी मुझे नहीं पता है. लेकिन यहाँ पे एक सिंगल बैंक मैनेजर, ब्रांच मैनेजर से लेके बाकी सब लोगों के पास में नेक्स्ट लेवल का पावर है. मे बी बॉम्बे के किसी ब्रांच मैनेजर किसी भी बैंक में जाएंगे तो ही हैज द पावर ऑफ से सैंक्शनिंग 5 crore rupees. And if you go in any small city or maybe reasonably, non-metro city, I'll talk about Ahmedabad because my business is there. The branch manager doesn't have power more than 25 lakh rupees. आपका प्रपोजल 5 करोड़ का जोनल लेवल तक जाएगा, पर वो लोग रिस्क नहीं लेंगे. तो बेटर टू मूव योर ऑफिस हियर इन मुंबई. That is why this is financial hub. Other people have come, you also start coming.
Good experience for you, sir. So, Munish ji, you want to say something, sir? Last word, Mr. Munish. Munish, unmute kar lijiye.
Yes.
You
हाँ
want
sir.
something.
Yes.
Lastly word, you want to say something?
बेटर टू मैनेज द कैश फ्लो, मींस वर्किंग कैपिटल को मैनेज करना ही सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है सर आज के टाइम पे. बिजनेस में टॉप लाइन को मैनेज कर रहे हैं आप या बॉटम लाइन को मैनेज कर रहे हैं, बट स्टार्ट मैनेजिंग योर कैश फ्लो आल्सो. दैट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट, बिकॉज केस इज द किंग और केस इज द लाइफ ब्लड ऑफ एनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. तो अगर आप केस को मैनेज नहीं कर रहे हैं तो मींस वी आर गोइंग टू लूज द बैटल.
Thank you very much. You are telling the cash is a lifeline of the any
organization.
any business for that. And lastly, sir, I am thankful to Shri Amit Mathur, sir. With a short notice, he said me okay, although he was quite busy. Mathur, sir, you are there. Mathur,
Yeah.
you want to say something?
No,
Something?
there is one line, cash is king, and that really is king forever.
Very nice. Very nice.
Cash is like a blood. Like if the blood, you have a high blood pressure, low blood pressure, that means it's too much of cash or excess cash, that's going to damage the business. So cash is a lifeline, cash is the king. So that has to be always on the, because I've seen so many entrepreneurs who just want to push top line. Now, without understanding that pushing the top line may suck cash out of their, out of their system, but they're looking at growing the business. Growing at the business, हमको ग्रो करना चाहिए, बट वो लॉन्ग टर्म का फॉर्मुलेशन करना चाहिए. नॉट लाइक 2 साल ग्रो करेंगे, but what after that, we'll die out if you don't manage your cash well. So that is the basic of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amit sir. So I think your view are well taken. Your startup, you have done it, and your advice, I think, while the entrepreneurs who are listening to you, who are participating, must be appreciating your viewpoint, sir.
I would like to say something. I'm so sorry because you went.
Please.
During all the discussion, when Mr. Tilak Raj Chawla sir started,
sir,
I like the advice by him that a businessman should never get emotionally attached with his or her property. He should only get attached with his business.
Yes.
Right.
Because that is the only lifeline. Rest of the thing you can keep on buying and selling. The business you should love like anything, just like your family. Other than that, whatever you are earning from business, you can, if required, you can discard, again buy, again sell, again buy, again sell. So you should not get emotionally attached with the property. You should get emotionally attached with your people who are working with it and your business.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Munish Gadia, sir, I think he has a new terminology. He's offered it. Operational profit, operational cash flow, the linking instead of all other ratios. This is the most important aspect. I think being a very seasonal chartered accountants and helping the entrepreneur preparing the project report and also valuation, I think his view are well taken. To ratio should be different. So I'm also thankful to Sri D.S. Rajput. I think you are the hero of this today webinar. So whatever mantra you have given, sir, today, I think everybody will appreciating. I think also I have conducted more than 100 webinars in a different subject. Today, I love what you want to say. This is also one source of the, you can say, financing. When you're talking about a partner or collaboration, although you are sharing the profit, lekin you are keeping the business running. I think this is most important mantra, sir, you have given to all of us, and people are also may follow it and getting the advantage of your advice for that also. I'm thankful to you, sir. So, Mr. Chawla, sir,
Thank you.
although I have no word to express our gratitude, Mr. Chawla ji. So, he has a long experience in the banking sector, and whatever advice he has given to the our participants must be appreciated. So above all, I am express my gratitude from the behalf of the Association of Advisor, what we have formed non-profit organizations. We have more than 300 members,
Okay.
and our aims are under this advisor association is to have a recognition for that, just like a advocate, chartered accountant. When we are talking about the financial advisor or consultant, we use the word of consultant. To banker or any institution feeling something different. So that type of their mindset should have been changed. That's why we have association of this. So we were tried, and it was formed by the eminent personality, eminent leader of the financial institutions. So we will try that it must be recognized, and it is recognized in the international market. When we are talking about MLO, we are talking about the arranger, we are talking about other things. It has been recognized by the international platform. Why not India? Just like Mr. Rajput are telling that insurance company also coming to insure the business. I think this is a important step. Although some institutions or some insurance company are also having the current asset insurance or other insurance, just like your fixed assets being insured against all type of risk. Again, we are talking about the financial risk. If business is not moving at all, and how the financial risk can be covered. I think this is the most important aspect. It is coming in the banking industry. Then, as Rajput has said, no collateral security will be required for that, and that can be utilized in some way else. So we are thankful to Rajput sir. Lastly, I am also thankful to Chawla sir, who is also well-known personality, and he is also president of the Lions Club. He is giving very social service to the people in Bombay. So I come to his contact a few months back. Really, he is serving the community. So after his retirement, I have no word, Sir Chawla sir, to say about you. So really, when I've seen you working and guiding the people, because I have got experience when once I was sitting, and how your working style is entire different things. So being retired as the executive director of the bank, and you are going to the scratch. That was the important aspect, sir. I full salute for you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I have no word to express my gratitude to all the eminent personalities here, and also my listener. So people are listening to you under YouTube, Facebook, and this, and all recording are put under the YouTube. If you want to see, you can see YouTube. I will also sending you the recording.
Okay.
I'm also thankful to Mr. Rohan and Mini Jan and other personality of who was on the back, whose name is not coming in the platform. So my IT team, who managing the aspects very well, although 2 or 3 minutes some we are delayed due to some technical problems. So we are excused for that. Lekin I'm thankful to these people also. So lastly, I express my thanks to everybody. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, everybody.
We will again give you trouble some other webinar, sir. Please.
Sure, sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
so
sir.
much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, sir. Thank you
Thank
very
Gupta
much.
sir doing noble job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.